We've got an update on Willie, but will he play in Game 4? That's the question. You're listening to the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome into the Locked On Leafs podcast, the daily Maple Leaf-centric podcast hosted by myself, Mike DiStefano, and my co-host, Dave Morassutti. Today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. Gotta admit, I got a competitive side, and it is a big fan of Monopoly Go, the mobile hit twist on the classic Monopoly. So join your friends and family, download Monopoly Go, now free on the App Store or on Google Play. What's going on, Dave? How you feeling?
Doing all right. Nice little break from the Leafs for the day yesterday, NFL draft. So got to see that. I watched the Pat McAfee stream. Electric.
I saw a couple clips from it, but I didn't watch the whole thing, but it was good.
Oh, it's fantastic, especially with Bill Belichick. Oh, it was awesome.
Which is just bizarre. Like a match that I never thought I wanted to see or needed to see, but like it went well with Bill.
Oh yeah, Bill was fantastic. He went with it. He was full out 100% in, which I loved.
That's hilarious. Who would be that version of hockey? So like I guess like Spittin' Chicklets might be that version of hockey in terms of a draft show, but like who would be like the former coach in the NHL or someone, maybe current coach, that you would love to see on that that
I would love to see on it.
Well, just like in the ilk of a Bill Belichick, like Torts.
Yeah, I was gonna say if you want to like the personality Torts. I'm trying to think of another coach that would work. Like you got to think of a successful coach, right? Not just like any coach too.
Oh, it's a very successful coach.
I would like to see John Cooper. Actually, John Cooper's got some personality.
Yeah,
he's witty.
Could see Coop. Paul Maurice potentially.
Yeah,
I mean,
Paul Maurice
actually, the exact like comp. He's a little older, but like Scotty Bowman, would be a pretty bang on comp for kind of the Bill Belichick of the NHL. But yeah, no, that's cool. I'm probably gonna go back and watch some of it. Excited for round 2 tonight, and then round 3 tomorrow. But then we got game 4 right after that tomorrow for the Maple Leafs and the Boston Bruins. So before we get into game 4, Dave, we got an update on William Nylander. It's now being reported that it's migraines. He's experiencing migraines, some severe migraines apparently, which has been the reason why he has not been able to suit up for the postseason. I don't know. What do you make of that?
It's when I heard the migraines report from Freeman, and then I read it in the story, like it talked about his decision to go with the tinted visor years ago. I remember that story when he went to the tinted visor, and I was like, man, that's tough to hear. Because again, I know a lot of people who deal with migraines and like severe migraines. And if it's as severe as it's being reported, I can understand it. Like light, just the movement, like the impacts that migraines can have on just any normal function. I can only imagine what it would do in a situation where you have to be competing at a high level and, the blood rushing and things like that. I can only imagine how tough it is. I know that some people are probably wondering how a migraine's keeping him out, and how it's keeping him out this long. I think that's the part that I'm kind of wondering, because there are a lot of advances in migraine medication and to get to kind of help subside the effects of migraines. So that's the question I have, is how is this still going on? But again, they probably didn't even know it was migraines until maybe recently.
Well, I think part of the report was he was being evaluated for a concussion as well, which I believe was ruled out. I don't know for a fact, but that that the report is migraines and that he was tested for concussion. And I don't know if that ever came through or what, but yeah, it's like a full week he's been out essentially now, like a full week with migraines, and I don't know how long those last. I thankfully don't experience extreme migraines. I yeah, I don't know how you deal with it. I don't know if it comes and goes, like if they just kind of flare up randomly or what the situation is there. But yeah, it's really unfortunate. Bad timing, I would say, for the Maple Leafs and for William Nylander to be experiencing this. But hopefully, it sounds like he's hoping to play in Game 4. Still no literal determination on that if he's going to play. Still going to be considered a game time decision. But man, the Leafs need this guy back in their lineup bad.
Yeah, and part of me is like, if he's dealing with migraines, why is he practicing?
Well, that's all. Yeah, that's also what's kind of confusing. Like practicing, he was playing. I saw a video of him playing Keep Up with the Boys before one of the games. Like, yeah, I am also kind of perplexed by that.
That's the perplexing part to me, is that if he's dealing with migraines and like when you're in bright lights and anything like that, I don't know why he is like not just. It would make things a lot easier if he just wasn't there, if he wasn't skating, because then okay, like this is something that's keeping him out from skating.
Yeah.
Like, so that's the perplexing part to me about all this, is that he's been skating, and that's what's been the perplexing part from the beginning. Him being out on the ice the last, before the last couple of days, that's I think what a lot of people are wondering, why are they just not keeping him sidelined for something? And now when we get something like this happening, makes it a little bit tougher to comprehend.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's the update on William Nylander heading into Game 4 tomorrow night. I mean, it's not necessarily the update we all wanted to hear, where there's like a definitive, hey, this is it, and he's going to be playing. He's worked through the issue. It seems like it's something that could be ongoing, and we just got to take it day by day, much like Willie obviously is in the team. So hopefully he's good to go by tomorrow, and because there's a lot of avenues where they could use him. 5-on-5, they could use some secondary scoring, and they could use him on the power play. When we come back, Dave, let's get into how putrid this power play has been, not just this year, but over the past few years in the postseason, and why that needs to change if this team wants to make a run. So we'll get into it. We'll dive into the numbers on the other side, and we'll tell you how to win an Austin Matthews jersey also. We'll tell you the details to that giveaway next here on the Locked On Leafs podcast.
When you're drafting your fantasy team, do you ever wish you could handpick the best stars for your business team? If you're building your talent roster, you need Indeed. Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Find top talent fast with Indeed's suite of powerful hiring tools like matching, assessments, and virtual interviews. Hate waiting? Indeed's U.S. data shows over 80% of Indeed employers find quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match their job descriptions the moment they sponsor a job. With Indeed matching, as soon as you sponsor a post, you get a short list of quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Boom, you're hiring at warp speed. And through Instant Match, candidates are 3 times more likely to apply to your job than those who only see it on search. So join over the 3 million businesses worldwide using Indeed to hire great talent fast. Indeed knows that when you're growing your business, you have to make every dollar count. That's why with Indeed, you only pay for quality applications that match your must-have job requirements. Visit Indeed.com/lockedon to start hiring now. So Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Cost per application, pricing not available for everyone. Need to hire. You need Indeed.
Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. It's Mike DiStefano and Dave Morassutti. Dave, thank you for letting me know that my mic wasn't plugged in. Now it's coming through a little bit more clear. So apologies for that first segment where it was just using the computer mic and not the better mic. So hopefully it sounds a little better for y'all. We're giving away a Leafs jersey, guys. We hit 5,000 subscribers a couple weeks ago, and we decided to do a giveaway as a thank you to all of our daily listeners. So how you can win yourself this jersey or become eligible to win the jersey, first and foremost, got to be subscribed to us on YouTube on the Locked On Leafs channel. Just go and go find us on YouTube, hit subscribe, or if you're listening to this currently, just subscribe to the video. Give us a like and a comment down below as well. It would be fantastic while you're at it. And then in the show notes, you're probably going to have to click see more option, and it'll give you the full show notes. There is a link in the description of a form that you'll have to go and fill out to give us your contact information. Then we'll be randomly selecting one person from that submission form website that it'll take you. And from there, we will find our winner. So you've got until the end of the first round to get that done. And one lucky winner will get themselves a Maple Leafs jersey, one lucky Locked On Leafs subscriber. So make sure you're subscribed to be eligible. All right, Dave. Special teams coming into the series, we knew that it was going to be a massive part of this series, right? The Leafs were going to have to score on the power play, and they were going to have to make sure that they kept Boston at bay when they had the man advantage. Well, through 3 games, they have not really done that. And it's really indicative as to the reason why they are down 2-1 in this series. You take a look at their power play. It is, I believe, second worst in the playoffs at just 9%. And the penalty kill has been putrid also at 50%. So when that's happening, you're not going to win a whole lot of games, Dave. Is it as simple as, okay, Willie comes back and they should be okay on the power play? Or do you think they should maybe try and change things up? Like somehow, some way, just move guys around, possibly do what Boston did and split up your power play units instead of loading up one. Like, how do you, is there a way to freshen up this power play heading into game 4 and further into the series?
Well, I mean, they could totally do a Boston. Like, I know that it's been talked about a lot what Boston did. I think Charlie McAvoy said, like, it was so bad that we, like, split things up, and it's really given us, like, energy and things like that. That's my issue with the Leafs power play, is it lacks energy. And I was listening to Justin Bourne. He really took a deep dive into this power play, and he said, like, the big issue is that Marner's playing in the wrong spot with Nylander out. He's kind of flanking on the boards. Like, Nylander's usually the opposite of Auston Matthews. And because William Nylander's not there, Mitch Marner's not at his spot, which is usually below the goal line, where then he can facilitate more. And the penalty killers have to then decide, do we go behind the net and try to intercept the Marner pass, or do we go and we cover the shooters on the flank? But because Marner's now on the sideboards, that puts the penalty killers in a position to take away that pass, or at least try to defend the pass. So part of me is wondering why the Leafs haven't found a way to get Marner in that position below the dot. And people will say, well, because they don't have Nylander there. Then put someone else there.
Yeah.
Like, that's the issue. Change things up a little bit. You can have Nylander on the top power play. We're not saying not take Marner off the top power play unit, but try moving some other guys around to get some scoring going. You don't need 2 guys in front of the net. That defeats how you don't have a point shot that's going to get through in traffic and the screens. That's the other issue too with this power play. So I do think a lot of it's personnel. I don't think it's as much strategy, but I do think that this has gone on for so long. I don't know why they didn't consider moving a couple of guys around, or as you said, even just doing the split, because then you're not going a minute 40 with these guys out. They're tired after a minute, and then 20 seconds of the second power play unit, and they don't have much time to really do anything.
Yeah, for me, like like I don't think it is personnel. We've seen this personnel work. It's just it gets stale, and that's kind of
Yeah.
where things are at. It's very stale, and it's slow moving for whatever reason. I don't know why. You and I were after we recorded the last game, we were editing, and then we were watching the Edmonton game, and you literally were sitting there. You're like, oh, how nice! Look at this quick power play. Look at these guys moving the puck around, zipping it around like that. And it'd be nice for Toronto to do something similar, as opposed to being very flat-footed.
Constant motion, constant moving.
Yeah, like play fast, play fast. That's what you always heard from your coaches growing up. Play fast, play fast, play fast on the power play. Move the puck, move your feet, get into new areas. Walk the line, find ways to shoot. Leafs aren't doing that. They're keeping everything perimeter and just little puff passes to each other, and it's just not working. Funnel things inside, even, and then crash the net, try and get a rebound. Now my problem here is, Dave, when you talk about the Nylander's missing and Marner's had to kind of be in a different spot, is you can pull that up. That's kind of what I'm going into. Just the fact that what's been the excuse for the last 5 years?
Yeah,
because it's not just been this year; it's been 5 years where this power play has been horrible. It was good last year in the series against Tampa. Go figure. The only series that they actually won in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
But prior to that, look at this. Like, we're talking a 15% power play in 2020, 13% in 2021, 14% in 2022. And they finally won a series against Tampa. It was 25% power play. And then you had 9% so far this year. Like, it's just it's stale, man. It's stale. No matter the year, the players, the personnel, it's
and
just
and even the penalty kill.
We'll get into the penalty kill in a sec, but for the power play right now, it's just gross numbers.
It's terrible. Like, to me, that's inexcusable. Like, you got guys who should be flourishing on the power play. Remember all those years ago when the Leafs refused to go, and retaliate on certain things, and Sheldon Keefe came out and says, our weapon is our power play?
I think that was Babcock.
Or was it Babcock that said that?
That might have been a Babcock. Our strength is in our power play. Yeah. But anyway.
But still, like, that doesn't mean diddly squat anymore if you're not scoring on the power play. Like, to only have, you're not even over 20%. Even like for this, like, even take away this series, look at the past years. When people were talking about, oh, they can't score on goaltending's been elite. When your power play has been that putrid, it makes it that's where you get your bigger opportunities. Like, the Leafs have gotten power play opportunities. People are saying, and look, we got a lot of people.
Like, as much as we crapped on the officiating and how bad it was in the last game, they still had 5 power plays. It's not like Boston didn't get called for anything. They just didn't do anything with those opportunities. And so what does it matter? They could have got 18 power plays. Not going to score. What does it matter? Maybe the refs are thinking that anyway. At least have a better shot at scoring at 5-on-5. We'll just keep it that way for them. Maybe they're doing us a favor.
Yeah, to me, when I look at this power play, and I've looked at power plays in the past, and then I looked at what Edmonton did, the reason why that Edmonton power play works so well is you had Zach Hyman in one spot, and then 3 seconds later, he's in a totally different spot.
Yes,
the penalty killers are just like, oh, but he was over there. Now he's over there. We have to now account for this guy who's scored 50 goals,
and then he's randomly just sitting at the side of the net waiting for his old Connor
backdoor tap in. Yeah, like, to me, that's the issue. And this is where it's perplexing, because Austin Matthews is a guy that's not stationary when he's normally in the offensive zone. He's a guy that's going around. He kind of padding the whole get out of the zone and come back into the zone so that the defenders kind of lose track of him. To me, that's another issue. You got to find a way to disguise Austin Matthews a little bit more on this power play. Yeah. I understand, like, you got, they're trying to do like the Stamkos Ovechkin, have him on one side, but Stamkos and Ovechkin also move around, right? Because and other guys move around, because then you get the penalty killers moving, and then that opens up the lane for a pass to the shooter. So to me, I don't know how it hasn't gone to this point where Sheldon Keefe has figured this out, because if we're seeing these things, and we've watched a lot of other teams play the last couple of days to kind of gauge what they're doing right on the power play. I don't know why the Leafs haven't figured this out.
Yeah, I don't know either. Let's come back. Let's quickly talk about the PK as well, which has also been very bad. And then we'll get into the keys to the game heading into game number 4. Leafs trying to even things up, taking it back to Boston. So we'll do that on the other side. I'm Mike DiStefano with Dave Morassutti. You're listening to the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. We've all got a competitive side, Dave, and my competitive side is a big fan of Monopoly Go. I'm sure you've heard of it. It's been downloaded over 150 million times. It's a great twist on Monopoly where you play on not one, but dozens of Monopoly boards in crazy locations, building up amazing cities that bring you big money. The best part, you can mess with your friends. You can charge them rent on iconic properties, just like in classic Monopoly. But now you can also heist their vaults for riches for yourself. And the leaderboards show who is the biggest Monopoly tycoon. But it's not just the competitive side that loves it. You can team up with your friends and people all around the world in time tournaments to earn huge rewards. So get in the game and join your friends. Download Monopoly Go now free on the App Store or on Google Play. Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. Mike DiStefano and Dave Morassutti with you. We got 5 days a week. We're sending you podcasts, creating content for y'all throughout the playoffs. You can find us wherever you get your podcast at, whichever platform you use for your audio podcast, and also up on YouTube. So we were just talking about how poor special teams have been. We ripped the power play and went into how bad it's been historically. But the PK has not been any better, and that's even worse to me. Not having a good power play, all right, that means that you're not going to score. But if you have a terrible penalty kill, that means you're getting scored on, Dave, and that is a problem. And right now, when your penalty kill is 50%, that is not acceptable. And again, 50% compared to Toronto's 9%. Power play success rate. That's been the difference in this series, and it's a yearly occurrence. Mm-hmm. Pull up the stats again for year after year on this on the PK. Look at that. Every year it's gotten worse. Every year the Sheldon Keefe era, it's gotten worse. Apparently it was 100% in that Columbus series. That's good for them. Then 84%, 78% 2 years ago against the Tampa Bay Lightning, 73% last year against the Tampa Bay Lightning, and they somehow won. Also because I guess they had a better power play at 25%, and then this year just 50% kill rate through 3 games. They've given up 6 goals on the man advantage. There's no reinforcements coming for the PK, right? Like Willie's not going to come and save the PK. That's got to be done with the guys in-house.
Yeah. And now I'm hearing, should the Leafs bring in TJ Brody into game 4 so that they can get another penalty killer in there? Well, which, again, if that's what it takes to get this penalty kill to play better than 50%, fine, so be it. Like, honestly, like, I'm getting really sick and tired of this PK being a reason why they're losing games, right? 2 for 3 in game 3, unacceptable, right? They didn't take that many penalties and they allowed 2 goals, right? Game 1, lost that game 2 because they took bad penalties and they couldn't keep the puck out of their net. So if that's what it takes, fine, because honestly, I don't know what else they can do.
Yeah, that really honestly might be it. Like, you bring in TJ Brody, who in the past has been a good penalty killer for this team. He's been a good defensive soldier, but recently and this year hasn't quite been. But maybe, a week out of the lineup, a week to refresh. He's been watching from up top. Maybe he sees something different. Perhaps he can give this team a little bit of a boost. So who's coming out if TJ Brody's going in?
Well, everyone's pointing to Timothy Liljegren coming out.
Yeah, I guess. So you go Lily or you Brody.
Personally, I think maybe it could even be Lyubushkin. I think one of those two guys. But like if you're looking, but I'm saying if you're considering guys, I do think it's going to be Liljegren just because I think Lyubushkin brings that physical element that they want to keep in. So you would then have an Edmondson Brody pairing, which didn't exactly.
We're not going to have Riley and Brody.
No, and that's the thing. They're not going to do that. So I do think that's probably going to be Liljegren coming out, and like Liljegren did really well in game 1. There hasn't been a lot of reason for me to say no. He's like an untouchable. He needs to stay in the lineup.
Yeah, I know. I agree. I think that's probably what we will end up seeing in game 4 tomorrow. Probably not going to see any other moves. Like Bobby McMahon was also reevaluated. It doesn't sound like he's going to be good to go for game 4, but could be an option potentially later in the series. I thought I had read that from Darren Dreger. Really quickly before we kind of go, what did you make of Joe Bowen calling out the fans at Scotiabank Arena? Do you think that'll have an impact on maybe what the crowd is like for game 4?
I think it was the comments were taken a little out of context in terms of the whole game. I think he was really trying to talk about the end of the game where he felt like there should have been more of a push from the crowd to get the team back and get the team kind of pick the team up. But I'm also like, look, here's the thing. We already know that arena, it's tough because you've got a very mixed crowd. You've got also not the full fledged of fans that can afford to go to those games. Like you're talking minimum $600 to get into the lower bowl. Like the upper bowl's full of fans. It's the lower bowl that doesn't bring the same amount of energy, right? They don't match it. And so I've heard from a lot of people that the crowd was great, right? Especially moments where the crowd was given a reason to really cheer, right? The hits, the goals.
Well, I think that was Bonesy's point, right? He thinks crowds need to be active, not reactive, right? They don't need to react to big hits and goals. They need to be cheering the whole time to give the team life. That was his whole bit, right? It wasn't just that, like I know you can make that argument, like, well, give them something to cheer about. But if you watch around the league, fan bases, they stand and cheer no matter what. It could be a 0-0 hockey game in the third period. And if it's Florida Tampa, those guys are cheering their asses off in the seats to try and give their team some sort of motivation, try and tip the scale somehow, right? Like that's part of what home ice advantage is supposed to give you. But unfortunately in Toronto, rarely do you get that. But I'll say this, I've been in those buildings and I've seen really, really ruckus crowds in the playoffs. Game 3 wasn't that. I could tell even based on, listening to the game through my TV that it didn't seem to have much punch to it, especially late in the game when the Leafs needed something. They needed a boost. They needed a goal is what they needed. And, it just seemed like it was a bit of a quiet, dead arena, which is not typical for playoffs around the league, unless it's here in Toronto.
No, that's fair. Like I do think the crowd needs to give a little more, just even like more "Go Leafs Go" chant or something. Like the thing is, we've heard it when the Leafs are not in town, like Buffalo, right? Florida, where they're going toe to toe with the home fans. We need to get a little more of that in there. And
you know what we need? Hockey needs like a supporter section. That's what hockey needs. Like you've been to TFC games. Like, have you ever sat in the supporter section at a TFC game? It's awesome. It's so much fun. It's a really good time. Now, obviously, you can't go around, like spraying mist, like blue mist everywhere and smoke and whatnot inside Scotiabank Arena. But like, if they could transfer that into hockey where you get, a big section together, they all chant together and they try and get the rest of the crowd in it, but they're having energy from start to finish on their feet, like legitimately the supporter section, like the people who are there and leading the charge, they haven't watched the games. Like they're just there cheering on their base to try and get something out of the crowd and out of their, I don't even know what to call them, a group or whatever they are, like whatever supporter group they are, because there's multiple ones that are there. So I don't know if like that's possible to try and take a page from that playbook and try and like have a fan only section where it's like a supporter fan section in the playoffs. I don't know. That's kind of my only like suggestion at this point is maybe if that's possible to try and do that, because I do think that it matters. It matters on the ice. It does make a difference. You hear teams after big wins, if the crowd's a big part of it, you hear them talk about like, oh, the fans, they gave us the energy. We fed off that. You didn't hear anything about the fans after game 3. The players didn't mention the fan base one time. It's because the fans did not give them anything, did not give them any energy. So I get.
I mean, I did hear some of the. I think some of the players said that it was. Keefe said it was loud. Sheldon Keefe said it was loud, but I get it. Like it's not like Boston. It's not like
loud when it was loud like puck drop right before puck drop, but then it fades as it always does. I think. I don't know. I wasn't in the building, like I said.
Yeah, that's tough because we're not there for the whole thing. TV also kind of
Bonesy's there for every game, yeah. So like he knows. Like if he says that it was quiet, and I believe it was quiet. I think Carlo Koliakovo said the same thing on First Up, kind of agreeing with Bonesy that it just wasn't nearly loud enough. Speaking of Joe, well, not really Joe Bowen, but speaking of legendary broadcasters, just want to, tough loss in the hockey world yesterday. Bob Cole passed away. Rest in peace to Bob Cole, an absolutely legendary hockey figure, play-by-play voice for Hockey Night in Canada for many, many, many years. Many generations. He was a legendary figure. So I know, Dave, you got great memories of listening to Bob Cole on the television, as do I, and many friends and family of mine. And I've heard nothing but great things about him, just reading other people tell stories about Bob Cole and what he did and how great of a man he was. And it's a sad part of life to see people like that go. But Bob Cole, I guess, passed. I think he was in his sleep possibly the other night. And just want to send our condolences to the Bob Cole family and all of his friends and family around the game as well.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the top moments in hockey history in the last few years, who's the soundtrack of it? Bob Cole. Like, I spent almost an hour yesterday looking back, not just on Leaf calls, but just hockey calls, like Gretzky when he got to 50 and 39, the Stanley Cups that he won, his last game, just the big moments. It was Bob Cole. The Olympics, right? 2002. That was Bob Cole. He was that's the part that I think you have to appreciate, is that while he's gone, like those moments, you'll always remember Bob Cole for those moments. And and like how seeing, as you mentioned, all the people giving him tributes and stuff, like everyone, I haven't heard one single bad thing about Bob Cole. I had all he needs to say about him.
Yeah,
he loved this game, and he even said, "It's not about me; it's about the players on the ice. I'm just a part of it. The game is never about me."
He was just helping tell the story, and he did it better than arguably anyone else who stepped into that booth. Really, really sad news in the hockey world. So rest in peace to the legendary Bob Cole. All right, Dave, that'll do it for us here today on the podcast. I'd like to thank you all for listening and supporting the show. You can subscribe to Locked On Leafs podcast on all platforms. Receive daily Leafs content. Follow myself on Twitter at Mickey_Canuck. Follow Dave at D_Morassutti, and follow the show as well at Locked On Leafs. We'll be back with another episode for you guys on Monday. Enjoy the game tomorrow. Go Leafs, go. Until then, keep it locked right here on Locked On Leafs.